today we've heard a lot of how the IT technology environment is changing. We have new opportunities, but those bring risk. We've heard how the federal government is being asked to keep up with this pace of technology advances, speed up digital transformations, increasingly adopt new services, cloud. As we go through this shift, we need to think about security and identity. We've heard how the DHS program is identifying the anomalies in data, the desired state through interrogations, making this information available to be operationalized in dashboards. We've heard how to use it in policies, reports, metrics, other ICAM initiatives. We heard from Dana. Dana brought to us the AI platform, predictive identity, how we can anticipate user access, spot risky behaviors, achieve continuous compliance. So what I'd like to do is, after I've refreshed your mind and we've just finished the compliance conversation, what I'd like to do is set the stage, think back throughout the day. This session is about you, the questions you have, and to go through some of the things that are key discussion points. I've taken notes. I've got a couple balloons I'd like to toss in the air. One for Dana to kick it all off, and I think that'll get the juices flowing. Dana, you mentioned, let me find my exact note because I loved it, minimizing the blast radius. And that to me, I think the following slide was overexposure and scattered access. What are some of the things that cause that? What behaviors in an environment create that blast radius of access and overexposure?
I think it's a few issues, right? One is just the fact that we have had poor governance in place over time. So people have accumulated access as they've gotten it. And I'll answer the second part of it with kind of a story in that when we first started the AI product, we were not going to use unsupervised learning. We were going to use reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning being, we are going to learn from your past history of acceptance or revocation to drive what our recommendation was. The problem that we found is that the information that what a human being could do with that information and what a human being would do with that information are very different things. What they could do is revoke it. What they would do is always accept it. And so we would have spent millions of dollars building a product to give you a bunch of thumbs ups because you've always given it thumbs up. At least in the corporate space, and I assume it's in the governance space as well, with probably a bit more finer of a lens, but there is a fear of disruption of continuity of business. You are requesting this because you obviously need it. Why else would you be requesting it? And the joke I always make is at least on the corporate side, if I had everybody in the organization request domain admin on AD to a manager, how many of them would accept it? My guess it's roughly probably in line with what it typically was before, which is about 99.9%. And so I think the solution here is about giving users more information. When we talked about roles, one of the things about kind of what's next is the one part of the role definition I didn't talk about is what the treadmill in the basement, right? How do I identify what are the things that I have that I don't use? And what that means is bringing in activity data. And activity data solves a problem from a security perspective, right? Hey, you're not using it, so let's get rid of it. But there's a real cost associated here, right? I'm spending money giving people Box.com on a monthly basis. And if you're not using it, why are we spending money on it? Similarly, on the file access manager side, if I'm giving everyone in finance access to a file share that has access to PII data or something like that, and only Tom and Jill are using it, and I have a facility to allow you to get it back to your point in real time, why am I giving these people access? So we need to start moving towards a much more conservative realm. The just in case access was really a byproduct because we had no other way to do it.
Thank you, Dana. I'm going to ask a couple more questions. Do you have anything to input, sir?
Yeah. I think this is kind of the story, right? What is old is new again,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
We all this stuff is cyclical, right? I mean, it's just we call them by new names, and it gets people excited, so we keep going, right? I think, in the Department of Defense, we reached a point where our cybersecurity control application was starting to really take root. And commanders and leaders noticed that they no longer had the rich situational awareness that they could count on to do their jobs. But what we didn't have was a vocabulary and a set of capabilities that could help us sort of manage this situation better. So we identified that the risk was to operations, and we swung the pendulum the other way, and it was the need to share is greater than the need to protect. And it was presented as that kind of a polarity. And it was an important sort of journey to get to the point, and by the way, that's a much broader problem that people have been having, and that's why there's a rich commercial set of capabilities that you can buy instead of these ponderously long, government acquisitions to kind of get to that capability. So I think we're postured to take these steps, but a lot of things have led us here, and that culture and those expectations are they're enduring, right?
I think to your point, as quickly, I always make the joke of, I'm going to leave IT when someone comes to me and says, we have this new idea that if we take these products that we're sharing and we bring them on-prem, we're going to see a lot of, it will happen, it's going to happen, and that's my last day. But anyway, what is old is new again, I totally agree.
Looking at Dana's presentation this morning, I agree with you. Everybody just rubber stamps. Okay. But the dilemma we have found, which we're working aggressively on, is a role is more important than the user. Okay, you have a user, but what are they capable of doing? What are their roles? Well, we've looked at roles that say AFC2, okay, and it gets proved. So I say to the supervisor, what role is that? Well, they've always had it. So looking
or they just don't know, so they're tired and it's 4:30 and they approve. And 70 roles get approved, and there's rubber stamping roles that don't make any sense to human beings. We pulled in a lot of legacy data that isn't human understandable, so we need to address that.
So to your point of where are we going, aggressively today, I should hear from Casper, we are looking at roles and how we can name them, how we can say, okay, for a Border Patrol agent who has an ATV or does this, he needs these. So the description will be very high level, and you can drill down and see literally in English what access they're gonna have. So I think our biggest effort, and why we're so successful, can I say that? Our analytics have been incredible. We analyzed every database we looked at users, we looked at roles. We looked at roles, one application had over 1 million roles. I asked him to name 100. How do you have 1 million roles? Again, a legacy system. So, printer for, the southern border, printer, that's a role. To be able to use a printer in some port somewhere. So, I think what we would tell someone, how do you implement identity management, is data analytics. Figure out where you are today, and then where you want to start. Obviously, our drive was the audits, and that's why we started with financial systems. But we drew a line in the sand, went to our SESers and said, what we're bringing you is ugly, and it's going to get uglier. And if it doesn't get uglier, then we're not digging enough, because you don't know what you don't know. And the analytics. So look at your application and say, how many users do we have? How many roles do we have? How old are they? When were they last recertified? And it'll be shocking. Yes?
Yes.
We've had many shocking conversations.
The argument for me about that data is important here, right?
Yeah.
CDM was created so that we could have actual data to make decisions on, right? Instead of just making decisions off of hearsay evidence and all these kind of things that weren't data, right? I'll tell you that the first CDM part of the program that went out around hardware asset management, every agency has been reporting up how many assets they have, right? It was about 50% accurate, right? So they only knew about 50% of the assets. And that's just one aspect of this, right? I think in the users, they've probably found a number of them as they've gone and done this wiring up to their systems, right? And data is very important, and what CDM's whole goal is to help take real data and help us make risk-based decisions off that data. It's not always easy, and analytics helps you determine what is the right stuff what is the right data to measure on. You really have to look at the data before you determine, oh yeah, that's a good thing to measure, and these are how I should measure that, right? I took the easy route onto CDM around ICAM. These are pretty simple things, right? You got a PIF card? Have you been vetted, right? You taking annual security training? And for your privilege users, what do you got access to, right? Those were really, it was pretty easy to decide that, but that's not the only information that people should be using these tools to do in their environment. There's rich data, analytical data that can be provided that give you context. And like I say, when I go to these high value assets, that's probably where even doing more analytics and looking for insider threats and those kind of things will be much more illuminating, right? And these tools should help with that.
I'm really concerned about, as we deploy these, right? We have to recognize that this is change management, right? Yep. We've got to put the culture, culture eats strategy for breakfast. I think we got a pretty good strategy moving forward, but man, that culture is important, and we've got to make sure that these mission owners are really empowered to help us pace, the deployment of these things. We don't figure out, hey, we got a bunch of garbage in accounts, so let's just delete all those accounts. That is not going to, afford us more credibility to kind of keep going on this. We've got to make them partners and sort of help tell the story about, what is the risk today, what are the opportunities and processes. And it really is that maturity model. And once you get to the good enough, maybe let it run for a while and see if they come up with some better ideas about how they can enhance their mission performance rather than just keep pushing and pushing until they're at ABAC and all their resources labeled. And I think we've really got to sort of measure deployment. There's no compliance around a lot of this stuff. This is all reaching and making the mission better.
Yeah, there's choosing your champions is an important aspect of success, right? Some of them are by need, right? If people are saying, hey, these systems are failing audits and they've got need there because somebody's saying, then you spend some energy helping those guys reduce their risk, right? It's also, some organizations have been trying really hard and they're having trouble getting resources. They're actually operating at a pretty high level, but you can give them resources and actually help elevate the whole game, right? Because then they can go and tell stories about, we were already operating here, and then we took these different approaches and we added extra capabilities. Maybe some of this is going to be, AI analytics because they're ready for that kind of stuff because they have enough historical information to really help them make better decisions in the future. But it isn't going in and just trying to paint everybody by peanut butter and and really just put the thumbs on everybody. That's not a really great method for success. It's finding your champions, leveraging your successes, finding out what worked there, taking that to other organizations and building on that is how you get your best outcomes.
I look at projects like these the way I look at like startup companies and a lot of even physics terms with mass. The more mass you get, the more you start to build gravity. And the minute you build gravity, things start to come to you instead of you having to go get them. And so, we always joked about, even at SailPoint, when we first started this company, we walked around and said, hey, I know something you don't know. And that was how we sold our product. And now as we've gotten bigger and we have gravity and people come to us, it's the integration with others that now starts to bring the value in and position ourselves. And so I see projects the exact same way is, solidify the base, build your gravity, and then once you do that successfully, your mass will bring people to you.
Absolutely. That's what we found at CDP. So our biggest problem now is our success.
Yep.
Because we were successful, we now have a capacity problem where we can't make everyone happy at once because they're all at the door looking for some SailPoint action. But in the beginning, if anyone's just starting their SailPoint implementation, don't boil the ocean. Look for quick wins, look for high impact wins, people that everybody will notice. That's very important. Don't get stuck in science experiment mode because you feel like you need to replace Tim. And then you're doing soup to nuts provisioning with one thing that's maybe not that impactful to the business. So try to find those areas that are high impact in your enterprise and hit them hard and do some easy ones. Take the easy stuff too.
We did that.
That's gonna go a long way. But people see it and like, wow, that's a lot of wins in 2 months. You guys keep going. Here's something else I want you to, So that's really important from a methodology standpoint.
But it is kind of funny, right? Because when you look at the easy wins in so many cases are the first 2 standard deviations of what needs to get done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm a Midwest kid, so I always feel like I'm like the German Shepherd that needs to have the weight on his back. But sometimes you don't need to. Just take the easy stuff because it gets you a long way. And we will move. We can go from there. But we're a whole lot better here than we were here. Mm-hmm. And if we can get there easy, wow, that's a win, right?
So we were fortunate enough to be able to split the team. I have a varsity team and I have a JV team. Sorry, Sheila, but that's how I roll. So I took the varsity team and they built all the architecture and they got all the templates together and they took the heavy hits. Then we took the JV team in tandem and said, okay, here's all your architecture. Get this win, get this win, get this win. So we were constantly winning. And then we came with the big bang and said, oh, by the way, we did this too. And when you're constantly talking about wins, everybody gets excited. And again, we do take away access, but I personally will look at every one of them and talk to our people, because if I would have removed access from several, it would have impeded our mission that somebody could have died. So you have to educate, you have to make everybody understand, yes, we do take away access, but it's not okay, you didn't comply, sorry. We have to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. We have a lot of control, and it's kind of nice to have that control. We can build our own world, but that control, other people depend on us to do their daily mission. So yeah, we got some gravity. Didn't they write a song about that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
So.
Was it about us?
Yes, it was.
Okay, good.
Well, this has been a great conversation, I think, and I hope everyone has got something out of this. I want to take the last few minutes and open the floor up to the audience. Ask our panel here any question you'd like. If you have any ICAM modernization questions from earlier this morning, be happy to answer those. I think we represent every session here that we've had today. So please ask away if you have any of those questions stored up from earlier in the day, or if we've triggered anything else in your mind.
So I have one question, Diana, from when you started to when you showed value in the enterprise, for the enterprise, roughly what was the timeline?
Are you going to believe me when I tell you? 30 days. 30 days. We started in November. I joined with Brian in November. Kind of made it to the holiday, and then we had the F word come in for 35 days. So I disappeared on Brian for a while. And then I came back from furlough. We started implementation February. We were done by February 30th. We were up and running. We had our list of quick wins. Brian had his list. I had mine. Again, he's 14 for 14. I'm only 1 for 3. And we hit it. And within 30 days, I think our first report to the AC, I had a list. We've done this, we've done this, we've done this. And again, we had the big stuff in the background that I didn't mention. But in looking at what our priorities were, we sent out a questionnaire to our system owners and said, where are your manual processes? Where are your pain points? You keep getting audit findings on this. How can we help you? So we had that going in the background. But we took the quick wins. We took a lot.
Yeah.
We probably had...
We finished our first research campaign for ACE 1 month after going live. That had never been done there. They'd always done it with spreadsheets.
Literally.
And people were like just floored by that. They were getting the emails and they're in the new interface, and there's an artifact.
And we have other applications that obviously we use every day, because customs is not for people. We get people, but they go to ICE, but we look at products. So we seize things. So applications that we have that monitor that, they were automated except for their recertification. So we completed a recertification. I only allow 1 week. The team's got to tell me why it needs to be more. But our first recertification for that application was 2 weeks. It was completed in about 7 days, 8 days, and it had over 26,000 users. So within 60 days. So, and then that's why our biggest challenge right now is the success. If you take the little wins, you get the gravity, then everybody, at least once a day, one of us is getting a call saying, can you help us?
But if you had asked a SailPoint engineer, is this cool stuff? They'd be like, it's all right. But if you asked the business if it was cool at CBP, it was awesome. And it was really high impact. And you have to sort of know your environment to identify those big wins. So an engineer might be like, it's pretty easy for us to do. I'm like, don't say that. Say it was hard. So we take credit for it.
Right, exactly. Because the team will say to me, well, okay, we need 2 days. Oh, you need 2 weeks? Okay, 2 weeks. 2 days. So then when you finish sooner, we don't lie. It's a matter of meeting expectation, of saying, okay, 2 weeks if they get it sooner. And I have to say, we've never missed a deadline.
Never. No.
So it's, you need to get the right team together. I've been with CBP, I don't know, over 15 years. I came in from the commissioner's office and worked my way down. Most people work their way up. I work my way down. Commissioner's office is not a fun place to be. Brian and I have been together at least 10 years. We worked on SailPoint projects and other projects. So he comes with the technical, I come with the political. So if you put a team together, first of all, you need the SES support, okay? But if you get a team together, there's probably not a problem he's brought up that I don't know who to pick up the phone and call. That's always important to know where you need to go, how you can solve a problem. We embrace failure. I love when the team comes to me and says, we have a problem. I'm like, yeah, what is it? Because then you see everybody's gears work, everybody has the same importance, and we get to solution. So the more failure you have, the more success you're gonna have, because if you don't fail, then you can't succeed. So
Just do something.
do something. Yes, and we make educated decisions. But if we fail, it's like, oops, what's next?
Yeah.
And then we pull the team together and pull in some other people. But the quick wins,
I was talking to someone earlier about, they were trying to figure out, if they can get to this really high level of sophistication in this system they're trying to put in, right? Where they're operating down here at the most risky point, right? And I'm like, so let's just go above that risk point right now. Let's get to somewhere where we're good enough. And if you're having people that say you need to get to perfect, let's have a conversation with them so we can talk about, we're mitigating risk, right? We can get here, but we have to go through here to get there, right?
and that's what you have brought up, the maturity. Having the patience to have the maturity. But it's fun.
It is.
It is fun.
It's fun when no NFRs. It's fun.
Yeah.
Maybe someday.
That's impressive. Congratulations.
So I want to first of all say I'm out of SailPoint Yetis. So that's the good news. But I definitely want to thank our speakers, our panelists, our partners, and I'd ask everybody to enjoy us next door for a glass of wine or a beer before you start your migration back to work or back to home or wherever you're going. Please go by our tabletop booths and talk to our partners.
Can I just stop you 1 second? Somebody had a question. I saw a hand go up.
Yes, please.
I saw her hand go up and then her hand went down and then we're back to the,
We're starting. I'm in DOI, Department of Interior, and we're starting. In fact, I just became the owner of this program. I've been the ICAM manager for over 10 years, so it's nice to see the CDM piece and the ICAM piece finally coming together. But I have some experience. I'm sitting at the table around and going, it's not that easy. So my question was, the quick wins that you got, were those with just out-of-the-box functionality, or did you have to do development?
One of the quick wins we had, which was my 1 for 3, is I wanted to clean up AD. SailPoint is driven by supervisors, managers. When CBP came to be under DHS, it was a merge of Border Patrol and Bureau of Customs that came from Treasury. So we had a lot of dirty data. So in looking at how do we get a manager, which we could hook up to our HR system that covered the feds, anybody who's had, our system has performance plans, so your supervisor is golden because that's the one who does. We hook that up instantly. So if you go into our Outlook and right-click on someone and hit organization, you will see their manager and everybody under them. So the other quick win we have on that is if somebody can't get a hold of me, but they can go click on me, see my manager, and see who all my peers are. So that was a quick win. We did analytics. Brian and I have been with CBP so long that we know where the bones are buried. So he and I sat and I said, what's your pet peeve? And we'll get to it in January, but you're still 14 for 14. And we looked at my pet peeves. And then we had our SailPoint team, and then they told me, well, we can analyze, if you get me this, this, and this, flat file connection, service account, whatever, we can analyze that in 2 days. I'll give you an answer. So we looked at our quick wins by our pet peeves of having been there so long. And then, of course, we had the questionnaires and we had the audit-driven part. But I'm sure you know where your agency fails or what your pet peeves are. And we still do that today. Again, I'm behind. I keep saying he's 14 for 14. I don't get it.
Get yourself a read-write service account into AD immediately.
You'll be shocked.
Start there, because it's sort of a natural fit for SailPoint anyway. So a lot of out-of-box capabilities right there. So start with that.
And that's why we start out CDM with unprivileged users, right? So you can get that AD connection and you can find all those users and, you know, I just want to know the users, right? You can do lots of stuff with it beyond that, right?
Yeah. And again, as another side benefit to that, we've recently moved to O365, which our licenses is based on AD. Well, we had so many dead records in AD, that was money that was getting spent, as Dana had mentioned, on licensing of people who were long gone. Just be prepared for the shock when you go in there and look, huh? Because I look at names, and it was like, what? Who is this? Where is that? How do we have this? But it is an instant win. I do recommend that you work with HR for your feds so that when you have the connection from them, your manager, supervisor will be perfect. We handle our contractors a little differently. So we did have to have the source of what is the definitive source. So
I think that's a challenge for many agencies, how to handle the contractor part of this, right? Yep.
Just find out where both of those sources are. If there's multiple ones, SailPoint can aggregate all of them and even choose, like, if it's not here, I'll go to the next source. I'll go to the next source. Yeah. So just pull it all in and let SailPoint do its thing.
And then next week you'll call me and say you're done and it's your quick win, and I'll say congratulations, you want your next one.
And just, I think quickly, I mean, I think people underestimate the power of what the data synchronization component can do for you just to start out, because, you know, whether you're doing attribute-based access control now or not, you probably will be at some point in the future. And so, and even just baseline role assignment is dictated off of having correct attribute values. So understanding where your attributes are sourced from, I call it authoritative source priority rules, understanding where it's sourced from and where it's going, and just turning that on is going to probably anger some people because their last name's going to change to what, you know, when they got divorced and they put it back or whatever it was. You know, it's people are going to get upset, but the data is going to be correct. And I don't care more about last names. I care more about job titles and cost centers and departments and all these things that are going to drive assets at some point in time. But you will set yourself up for troubles there without looking at the data in the beginning.
And the only other warning I have for you is I can guarantee you SailPoint data is correct. And everybody who has a problem, again, like he's saying with the last name, they're going to say your data's wrong, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
In our feds, people would call me and say, I have the wrong manager, I moved, whatever. I said, well, then you need to call HR because your SF50 didn't get processed.
Great.
I can guarantee you the data is correct. And then they, okay, fine. And then they call me back. They never processed my SF50. So when you're looking at AD and the manager, we just had a ripple effect. And again, people were angry. They call me, your data's wrong, you didn't do it right. Yeah, bring that on, okay?
I can guarantee you the person that will be wrong will be the general or someone that it should not
is
be.
that
I mean,
true?
you're like, of course it's going to be this, it'll be the president, right? I mean, it'll be someone where you're like, come on, can it not be Jason? You know what I mean? But that's just the way it is.
That's right, our commissioner was wrong because he moved to DHS.
But it was still...
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It's just the way it is, you know.
You're right, because I looked at that and went, oh, now I got to go tell Commissioner McElwain and his, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll find that. But just be confident in your data, that you know the connections are there. I spend a lot of time, and so does my team, looking at me. They already know my hash ID, and they look at what the data is, and I can look at it. So pick people you know. Be confident that you're looking at the data. You're trusting a team. Some people don't have that instantly like he and I do. So look at what you have. Be confident in your data. And when somebody calls you and says you're wrong, then you can say, well, let's review this. So yeah, I want to hear from you next week. Go implement that.
And Diana, when the commissioner's in the wrong place, DS, you can talk to me or see why the tie didn't catch that, right?
There you go.
Yes, that was pretty, I was like, what did Ty say? Yeah, but there is a problem with acting and again in the SF50s and transfers. But just be confident in what you're doing. So be confident in your team, look at your own data, have some mercy. Do I have mercy sometimes?
No.
And go have fun. I mean, I look forward every day to sitting with the SailPoint team and saying, okay, what are we tackling today? When you ask where are we headed, we have PAM, we're getting ready to implement CyberArk, we're looking at other systems, and we're looking at forensics, and we're going everywhere. You throw it on the table, it'll stick. Now, when we get to it, there is a plan in that. When we took on the biggest financial system that had three major pieces that were legacy and development and new development, we did take a big elephant to say, if we can do this, we can do the little stuff while we were doing the little stuff. And that's where the varsity team built that, and then JV picked up from that. So you do have to build on yourself and your own foundation. But have fun. I have fun every day. And I don't know if I mentioned no NFRs. I mean, we had fun and had no NFRs.
No NFRs.
I mean, who could put those two things
I think
together?
you're the only person that's ever said identity is fun. And Brian, I don't think anyone has ever said it's sexy.
It is.
He tells me, yeah, it is.
It's a sickness, though. It definitely is a sickness.
I'm good with it.
It is a sickness. My whole team is sick.
Yeah?
Sela will tell you I have a sick team.
Yeah.
I have data geeks that just, But you need to have fun with it. If you don't, you're going to cry. There are times I've looked at Brian and say, what are we doing? Especially with, some report will come on the news, we cage children. What? But then there are other days when we sit down and we solve problems and we move on, and it is fun. It is sexy.
I think it is. I've dedicated 22 years to it in the federal government, and it's been a challenging career. It makes me want to have a cocktail every once in a while.
There you go.
So what do y'all think?
Yeah,
we need that
Is it time to
cocktail,
have a beer or a
yeah.
glass of wine?
I think it will.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Everybody.